Welcome to the Workers' Reading Room. Tonight I'll be reading Chapter 12 of F.I.S.T by Joe Eszterhas, but first a quick recap. In the previous chapter, F.I.S.T's strike against Talbot Trucking begins, and the first obstacle that the union men have to face are the scabs who refuse to stand in solidarity with their fellow workers. The men are able to stop the scabs from going through the picket line, but then have to deal with armed thugs and company lackeys raining bolts and rocks down upon them from the warehouse. Johnny and the men also have to deal with the other arm of the company, the police, who arrest the men and stop the picket line for the day. After Abe bails them out, they are back on the picket line the next day. After a few days of this, Abe tells Johnny that the men are tired and comes up with a plan to both raise morale and give the workers time to rest. They lease a nearby empty lot from the church and set up tents where they can eat and rest while picketing in shifts. Johnny's mother, Molly, Anna, and others volunteer to help the cause. One day while the union are having a get-together at the lot, Vince Doyle tries to warn Johnny that the next day the company will come after them in force with hired thugs, cops, and armored vehicles. Johnny doesn't take the warning seriously, confident that they can handle it. The next day, the company strikes back with intensity, with armed goons beating people and burning down the tents, while cops beat and arrest the union men. While this is happening, an army of scabs ride into the warehouse. The strike is broken. Beaten down and furious, Mike Monahan gets into the old jalopy and attempts to ram through the company gate, but is shot and killed in the attempt. While Johnny and Abe make funeral arrangements for Mike, they are still in shock and at a loss of what to do. And now, F.I.S.T, Chapter 12. Cots had been placed on the church pews. Injured strikers lay there being cared for by Dr. Rosen. Anna and Molly helped him tend to the bleeding men. "We got everybody here, Doc?" Abe said. "A few are still at the police. You need anything, Doc?" Johnny said. He shook his head. "We do okay." A reporter walked up to Johnny. "I'm Kane from the news, Mr. Kovac. What are you going to do now?" Johnny ignored him. He saw Higgins on a cot and walked over to him. "How you doing, Tom?" "Terrific. Don't you worry about me, Johnny." Johnny looked at his battered, bloody face. "You big lug." He smiled. The reporter leaned close to Higgins. "Is it true you've got communists backing you?" Johnny suddenly swung at the reporter. He hit him, then swung at him again. Abe and Anna pulled him away. "Johnny! Johnny!" Anna said, holding him. They sat in front of her house in Dr. Rosen's car, staring straight ahead into the darkness, saying nothing. Johnny put his head down on the steering wheel. Anna reached over and held his head. He started to cry softly. "Johnny." He lifted his head and smashed the steering wheel violently with his fist. His voice was choked. God damn 'em, Anna." She was crying now too. She pulled his face close to hers and kissed him tenderly. The church was filled. The priest finished his requiem. Johnny, Abe, Higgins, and some of the other men lifted Monahan's casket up and carried it outside. The casket was covered with a F.I.S.T banner. There was a throng of people outside. The men put the casket down. "We're going to stop at Consolidated on the way to the cemetery," Johnny shouted. "Nobody get out of line." They formed a procession, standing abreast across the street with their arms linked. Johnny, Abe, Anna, and Molly were in the front row. Monahan's casket led the march. As they walked, the people of the flats joined them. Mishka was there, Jugovich, Ziggy Zagon, Zabo, carrying a red flag. More and more people joined the march at every corner. Rowdy teenagers straggled at the sides. People in tenement windows tossed flowers to them. A few hundred feet from Consolidated, Johnny saw a long line of policemen blocking the street. The armored cars were behind them. A police captain stood in the middle of the street with a megaphone. "Stop where you are," the captain said. "This is an illegal march. I'm ordering you to disperse." The marchers kept moving toward the police line. "Stay calm," Johnny shouted. "Everybody stay calm." "This is the last time you will be warned," the police captain said. "I am ordering you to disperse." 100 feet from the police line, Johnny stopped the marchers. The marchers broke ranks and milled chaotically over the street. Many of them were yelling. "Stay in line," Johnny shouted. "Everybody stay in line." Rocks were thrown from the ranks of the marchers toward the policemen. Johnny and Abe saw some of the policemen duck. "Stop it," Johnny shouted. "Don't throw nothing." He and Abe headed through the crowd for the rock throwers. They saw a group of teenagers throwing the rocks. They pushed through the crowd for the kids. "I am ordering you to disperse," the police captain said. "You will be arrested." There was a gunshot. Johnny and Abe stopped and looked toward the policeman. They saw the gunman. He stood among the marchers, a cap pulled low over his eyes, a pistol in his hand. They recognized him. He was the hawk-faced pale man with the scar running down the right side of his face, the man who beat both of them up. "No!" Johnny screamed. "No!" The gunman fired once more, then ran down an alley. There was chaos in the street, screams and panic. The policeman fired at the crowd. Several people went down. The marchers turned in desperation to flee. Johnny and Abe raced down the alley after the gunman. He was a block ahead of them. The police charged the mourners, who were trying to flee. Anna stood in the street in shock, not moving, looking at the body of a woman who had been shot. Johnny and Abe chased the gunman through the flats. He ran toward the rail yard. Anna remained on the street, unable to move. A policeman hit her with a billy club and she went down. The cops turned past her. Anna got up and went to the woman's body. She kneeled over it and sobbed. Johnny and Abe chased the gunman to a row of boxcars. They knew he was in one of them and they went from car to car. Johnny jumped in an open boxcar. The gunman came out of the shadows, holding the gun. He fired it point blank at Johnny's head and laughed. Johnny stopped, stunned, but he was unhurt. He hurled himself at the gunman. He knocked the gun from his hand, then knocked him to the floor. He punched his face, then slammed his head into the floor of the boxcar. "You're gonna kill him," Abe shouted. Johnny kept slamming the gunman's head to the floor. Abe jumped at him, trying to knock him off the man. Johnny hit Abe, knocking him against the side of the car. Again and again, he slammed the gunman's head against the floor. Abe got up and tackled Johnny. In the street, the police were piling the wounded into a wagon. Anna was brought to the wagon. Her skirt was bloody and she tried to wipe the blood away. In the rail yard, Johnny gasped for air outside the boxcar and staggered back inside. Abe crouched over the gunman. "He's dead, Johnny." Johnny picked up the gun. He opened it and looked inside. He hurled the gun against the side of the boxcar. "Blanks." Vinny's was dark and empty. He sat in the back, a bottle of whiskey in front of him, his funeral suit rumpled, his tie undone. His face was pained, his eyes empty and brooding. Vince Doyle walked up to his table and looked at him. Johnny didn't look up. "I'm sorry, kid." "Whistling past the graveyard, Vince. That's what you said." Doyle sat down and poured him another drink. "Leave it alone, Johnny. For Christ's sake, will you leave it alone? What's got to happen to convince you?" He drank the bourbon. "I can't, Vince." "Walk away, Johnny." He shook his head. "You know how many men I gotta lose their jobs?" "You got? They your family?" "They'd have it worse than they ever did." "What's it got to do with me, Johnny?" He grinned, paused. "What's in it for you, huh, Vince?" "Yeah," Doyle said, his voice harsh. "What's in it for me? Sure, And let me tell you something. What the hell's in it for you? He glared at him, then looked away, his voice lower. Get off it, Johnny. I need push, Vince. You need a goddamn army. He slammed his fist to the table. I ain't gonna bury nobody else. Help us knock 'em off, Vince. This one time. I'm a businessman, Johnny. Those people we buried were ours, Vince. Doyle grinned. My people's anybody that can pay me. Our people, Vince. He paused. This one time. That's all I'm asking you. Doyle didn't say anything. This one time, Johnny said. I give you my word. Come on, Johnny. My word, Vince. There was a long pause. You know what it costs to get enough guys to... We've got a fund, Johnny said. Doyle looked at him and smiled. Abe sat in the living room, listening to the radio. Johnny walked in, a bit unsteady, though he was not drunk. Abe turned the radio up. Police, meanwhile, said they are still seeking the striker who fired a handgun at a cordon of policemen standing near the Consolidated Terminal. When they were fired on, they returned the fire. Johnny grinned. Hell yeah, they did. 4 persons were killed, a score injured in the incident which United Mine Workers President John L. Lewis called the Funeral Day Massacre at a press conference in Pittsburgh today. Federation of Interstate Truckers President Matthew J. Rafferty blamed red agitators for the shootings and said in Flint, Michigan, he was coming to Cleveland to take over negotiations. Local union organizer Johnny Kovac was unavailable for comment. Johnny laughed. But Consolidated President Winthrop Talbot said he welcomed Rafferty's announcement. Rafferty is a professional who has the best interests of his men at heart, Talbot said. Johnny abruptly shut the radio off. And we don't, Abe? Hear that? He paced around the room. Over my dead body, Rafferty is going to talk to him. That's what my comment is. Where have you been? Abe said. He hesitated. I went over, saw Vince Doyle. Vince Doyle? How come you saw him? Johnny avoided his eyes. I asked him to help us. Vince? Abe said. Those hoods of his, Johnny? The punks he's got? Johnny turned to him. Abe, listen to me. He's got push. Jesus, Johnny. You want to keep burying people, Abe? Is that what we do? They're gonna fuck it up, Abe said. He got up, faced Johnny. You hiring Vince and those guys, Johnny? I'm telling you, they're gonna fuck up this union. I ain't bringing 'em in to be lifetime members. Vince comes in, Johnny, he'll never get out. Johnny turned on him angrily. Jesus, will you listen to me? What are you talking about? We need the push. Without the push, we ain't got a union. He paused. You fight fists with fists. Abe thought about it, then shook his head. Then how we gonna know, Johnny? Know what? The difference. What difference? What are you talking about? Between them and us, Johnny. Johnny glared at him. The church hall was packed with men standing around in groups, talking. Johnny walked in with Vince Doyle and Jocko, both of whom wore fedoras and snazzy suits. Higgins looked at Vince Doyle and said to Abe, Who's he think he is, Al Capone? Abe grinned and walked over to Johnny. He ignored Doyle and Jocko. Rafferty's here, Abe said. Where? Abe motioned. In the back of the room, Johnny saw Matt Rafferty surrounded by a large group of men. You guys said hello? He said to Doyle and Abe. Vince Doyle put his hand out and smiled. Long time, Abe. Abe forced a smile and shook his hand. How you doing, Vince? Hiya, Abe. Jocko smiled, his hand out. Abe ignored him. Come on, Johnny said. He led them toward Rafferty. As he neared him, he heard some of the men around Rafferty say, What about our jobs? What are you going to do about it? Rafferty saw Johnny and the others. Johnny smiled. What are you going to tell the men now, Kovac? Rafferty said belligerently. I'm glad you came down, Matt, Johnny said quietly. Talbot's agreed to have a meeting with me tomorrow, Rafferty said, his words loud for the benefit of the men around him. That's good news, Matt, Johnny said quietly. Anytime anyone in this union needs my help, Rafferty boomed. I'm here. Johnny turned him away from the others and whispered, Let's go someplace we can talk a minute. Rafferty looked at him suspiciously. I need your help on something, Johnny said. I'll see you men in a couple minutes, Rafferty said to the others. Johnny turned. Rafferty followed him with Abe. Johnny motioned for Jocko to follow them. They went out a side door and up a stairway. You should have asked me for help when you started all this, Rafferty said, getting all these people killed. He looked around the stairway. We going to church? Johnny grinned and opened a door. They followed him into the church sacristy. Get the door, Jocko, Johnny said, his tone suddenly hard. We don't want to be disturbed. Jocko left the room and closed the door. Johnny and Rafferty stood around in the middle of the sacristy, surrounded by vestments and crucifixes, facing each other. Abe watched them from the side. What is this? Rafferty said. You're going in to see Talbot, huh? You're damn right I am, Rafferty said angrily. You're gonna sell us out, Matt. Have us go back for nothing. I'll discuss this with the men, Rafferty said. He started for the door. Johnny blocked his way. Train leaves in an hour, Matt. He smiled. Rafferty looked at him. Johnny kept smiling. You're going back to Flint. Nobody sells me out. Like hell I am, Rafferty said. Johnny slapped him viciously across the face. Still smiling, he grabbed Rafferty by his lapels and pulled him very close to him. Christ, Johnny, Abe said. Aren't you, Matt? Johnny said. You son of a bitch, Rafferty said. Johnny slapped him again. Abe winced. Aren't you? Johnny said. This is a church, Johnny, Abe said. Let go of me, you bastard, Rafferty said, his voice choked. Come on, Johnny, Abe said. Let him go. Johnny pushed Rafferty away to the wall. He started out of the room, then turned back and went to Rafferty, who cringed from him. Jocko will ride you to the station, Johnny said. He smiled. One more thing, Matt. Next time you come to Cleveland. He raised his hand toward Rafferty again. As Rafferty flinched, he patted him softly on the cheek. Call me, Johnny said. Let me know you're coming. He started out of the sacristy. Rafferty and Abe looked at each other. Abe hesitated, then followed Johnny out of the room. When they got back into the church hall, there were so many men they could hardly move. Abe went to the table and banged the gavel. If you guys that got seats would sit down, we could get going. As Abe kept banging the gavel, Higgins introduced Johnny to two men, P.D. Marr of the dock workers and Ed Noonan of the steel workers, local labor leaders who had simply walked into the meeting and told Tom Higgins that they were there to help Johnny Kovac, here to help F.I.S.T. Because they were all brothers. Because, as P.D. Marr said, they weren't going to stand around with their fingers up their you-know-whats and let their brothers get shot down on the hard, cruel, boss-run city streets. Johnny shook hands with the two men warmly and, when the room was quiet, he stood behind the table and smiled at his men. All right. Before we get to anything else, I've got to tell you that Matt Rafferty got called back to Flint sudden on account of a sickness in the family. He wanted me to tell all of you that he's with us 200% and he'll help us whatever way he can. The men cheered. Johnny smiled. Abe looked at him. We got a couple guys here that want to say something. First, Ed Noonan from the steel workers. Noonan, a little man with a thin voice, got up and said, I got a Western Union from John L. Lewis I'd like to read. The men cheered Lewis's name. It says, to our brothers of Local 302 of the Federation of Interstate Truckers, we stand behind you with our hearts and bodies in the great and noble struggle you must continue. The men cheered. Together, the American labor movement will never be vanquished. Yours in solidarity. Signed, John L. Lewis. The men cheered wildly. Thanks, Ed, Johnny said. We also got Petey Marr here of the dock workers. Marr got up. He was a burly, mustached man in his early 40s. Whatever you guys need, Johnny, he said in a gruff voice. You let us know. I talked to the men yesterday and we voted to give you guys whatever you need out of our emergency fund to tide you over. Marr sat down. Then, as the men cheered, he got up again and shouted, Till you get what you got rightfully coming to you. Johnny grinned and waited until there was complete silence in the room. Thanks, Petey. Thanks a lot for that, 'cause we're gonna need it. He paused. All I got to say to you guys is that Monahan was right. That's right, Johnny, one of the men yelled. You tell it, Johnny, Higgins shouted. When he continued, his voice was intense and rock hard. We go back out there. They're not gonna beat us no more. They're not gonna burn us down. They're not gonna start shooting. 'Cause if they do, we're gonna do what Mike did. We're gonna go after 'em with whatever we got. He paused as they cheered him, then continued, his voice an angry cry. I'm saying to Talbot right now, I don't give a shit. We gotta do any more shoveling in the cemetery, they're gonna shovel some too. We're through taking punches. You don't win fights taking punches. He paused in the overwhelming silence and picked up a sign that said, Local 302 F.I.S.T on strike. He held up the sign and pointed to the union initials. What does this say? It don't say Federation of Interstate Truckers. It ain't a bunch of letters like any other union. It says F.I.S.T. He held his fist high in the air. One fist. Every guy in here. That's what we are. A fist. He paused, then lowered his voice. Any of you guys don't believe that? Get out of here right now. I mean it. He waited and looked at the men. No one moved. We're gonna take a week, get organized. Then we're gonna go out and shut Consolidated down. We're gonna get what's coming to us. We're on strike. The men cheered. He watched them. He raised his fist, then grinned. I want you to meet Vince Doyle. Vince, get up. Doyle stood up and smiled. Vince is a friend of ours. He's gonna be our business agent for a while. He's gonna help us get organized. Doyle sat down. Some of the men grinned. Meantime, Johnny said, everybody can keep picking up your strike benefits at the office. We'll have somebody there all the time. Okay, that's it. We're with you, Johnny, Higgins yelled. Afterwards, Vince Doyle walked up to him. Business agent, huh? Sounds good, Johnny grinned. Abe watched them. The window in the tiny union office was open. They were hot and sweating. Doyle was the only one who wore a tie. Higgins and Petey Marr of the dock workers were in their undershirts. Johnny and Abe had their shirts unbuttoned. There was a map of the city on the wall. They talked fast, excitedly, sometimes at the same time. Doyle, but what's going to convince them this time? Johnny, we'll have more guys. Doyle, so what? They can still bring scabs in from the other companies. Johnny, not if we hit all of them. Higgins, all the trucking companies in the city? Johnny, fuck yeah. Set up a line at all of them. Doyle, I like it. Shut everything down. Puts a lot of push on Talbot. Johnny, Petey, what do you think? Marr, what about the trucks coming in from out of town? Johnny, stop them before they get in. Doyle, right. Abe, how you gonna do that? Johnny, send some guys out. Doyle, bust their ass out on the road. Abe, and do what with them? Doyle, what the fuck you think? Marr, take the scabs out. Doyle, play tiddlywinks. Marr, give 'em some exercise. Johnny, we cut their tires. Doyle, Leave the heaps block up the road. Mar. Have the cops get rid of the rigs. Higgins. Beautiful. Give 'em something to do. Abe. How you gonna know where to send the guys? Johnny. Shit, you're right. We can't have 100 guys all over the road. Doyle. Send some kids. Abe. Kids? Doyle. Kids hanging around the pool halls. Tell 'em to get their bikes. Take a ride out on the highway. Higgins. 2 from Toledo. Route 6 from Erie. Mar. 71 down south. Doyle. Give 'em a lollipop or something. Johnny. Have 'em call in. Higgins. A pack of rubbers. Doyle. Sure. Now you're thinking. They see a truck, they call. We send the guys out. Abe. Call in where? Here? Johnny. We're gonna need a place. Doyle. Get that old warehouse. What is it? A block from Consolidated? Johnny. We're gonna have trouble getting anything if old man Talbot can help it. Mar. We'll rent it for you. They'll give it to us. Johnny. That's great, Petey. Mar. I'll set it up tomorrow. Doyle. Have the kids call into the warehouse. Set up a bunch of phones. Higgins. Beautiful. The headquarters. Mar. Can you get enough kids? Doyle. You get enough rubbers. I'll get enough kids. Higgins. I'll get the rubbers. Doyle. Concentrate on Talbot, though. The others, we just want to push 'em to push Talbot. Johnny. Yeah, that's where the crunch is gonna come. Higgins. So what do we do that's different this time? Doyle. We give your guys some protection. Abe. Guns? Johnny. Come on, Abe. Doyle. Hoses. Abe. We gonna sprinkle water on 'em, Vince? Doyle. We cut a bunch of hoses into little pieces, knock some lead in the hollow, cover it up with friction tape, saw a bunch of 2x4s into little walking sticks. Johnny. Yeah, get as much real tough cardboard as we can. Stick it into the sweatbands of our hats. Everybody's gonna wear a hat. Abe. How are we gonna stop the cops from shooting at us? Doyle. After what happened the last time, the cops aren't gonna be hot to go back out there. Abe. What happens if they do? Johnny. Wait a minute. One way. If we split the cops up. Abe. You gonna ask him to step aside? Johnny. No, listen to me. Get between 'em. Drive a truck with a bunch of guys in it smack into the middle of 'em. Doyle. Yeah. Have the guys jump out? Johnny. Jump into the middle of the cops. The cops would be afraid to shoot. Doyle. 'Cause they might hit each other. Mar. Boy, I gotta hand it to you guys. Higgins. What about those fucking tanks we saw out there? Doyle. I'll worry about 'em. Abe. You'll worry about 'em? Doyle. I'll take care of it. Abe. How? Huh, Vince? That's what I've been asking you all day. Johnny. Vince and me figured that out already. Doyle. Dynamite. Abe. Dynamite? Johnny. Hit the truck. No truck. Mar. Holy fucking Jesus. Doyle. How many of those things they got? Higgins. 4. Doyle. Shit. You hit one. The other 3 are gonna run all the way to Detroit. Abe. But Jesus, we can't just... What about the men in that truck? Johnny. What about 'em? Anna and Molly stood with a group of women on the floor of the huge box-like warehouse which was Local 302's new headquarters. Behind them, men were unloading crates and cleaning up. What you do, Anna, Johnny said. You go up to 'em and tell 'em what we're doing, what we want. Just a little contribution, Vince Doyle smiled. Yeah, Johnny said. Groceries, medical stuff, whatever they want to contribute. What if they say no, Johnny? No? What if they don't want to contribute? You write their names down, Doyle said, and tell us. How come? Molly asked. What how come? Doyle said. How come we write their names down? Doyle grinned. So we can send them a card for Christmas. Johnny laughed. He saw Dr. Rosen at the warehouse door and walked over to him. I wasn't sure you were going to show, Doc. Dr. Rosen looked around the huge, cavernous warehouse. Our new hospital, huh, Johnny? Not all of it, Doc. We're going to need all of it. Johnny laughed. Come on, Doc. I'll show you around. He led him to a small room on the second floor. Dr. Rosen looked at it. What's this? The water closet? Maybe we can fit in 7 dwarfs. It's our hospital, Doc. We aren't going to need more room this time. Sure, Johnny, sure. He shook his head and sighed. Okay, Johnny. You say it's a hospital? It's a hospital. Johnny slapped Rosen on the back. From a second-floor window, he saw Jocko, who had a piece of hose in his hand, talking to a group of union men. Johnny walked down, stood next to Doyle, and they both watched Jocko. What you do is, Jocko said to the men, before the asshole can do something, you clobber him. The men watched Jocko warily. Get him in the back of the head, Jocko said. You put him down. How come I should hit him if he didn't do nothing to me? One of the men asked. 'Cause he'll beat the shit out of you if you don't hit him first, that's how come. Can't we hit him in the leg? The leg? You get him in the leg, you idiot. He's still gonna clobber you. You do it like this. Jocko moved behind one of the men and faked hitting him with the blackjack. The man turned nervously around. I'm just showing you. Relax, Jocko said. You don't put the hose over his head and bring it down. He faked slamming the blackjack down on the man's head. He moves an inch. You miss. You swing up. He swung upward at the man's head. You swing upward, you crack his nut. How's it going? Johnny said to Doyle. Doyle grinned. Bunch of nuns learning how to fuck. Johnny laughed and walked away. He saw Abe speaking with a portly, bespectacled man who was pulling a child's wagon filled with wood. Johnny, this is Mr. Schneider, Abe said. Mr. Schneider teaches the violin and the cello, Johnny. He brought us some wood. We heard that you might be needing some pieces of wood, the man said. We wanted to help you, Mr. Kovac. Thank you, Johnny said. We don't have any money we can spare, but... He looked at the wagon. We had a banister. A banister? My wife and I cut it up. You cut your banister up? For the strike. Oh, well, thanks a lot, Mr. Schneider. A pleasure, Mr. Kovac. The man beamed, shook Johnny's hand again, and walked away. Johnny started to laugh. He teaches the cello, Abe, he said, laughing hard, and he cuts his banister up. Jesus Christ! Abe got into it and laughed with him. The two of them stood there on the warehouse floor, red-faced and laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Get out here! Higgins bellowed. Will you guys get out here? Still laughing, they walked outside with most of the other men. A F.I.S.T. flag was being raised on the warehouse roof. Ain't that a sight? Johnny said. You ever see anything as pretty as that? Abe looked at him and smiled. Never, Johnny. Never have. And that is the end of Chapter 12 of F.I.S.T. Thank you for listening to the Workers' Reading Room. Have a good evening.